Okay, I have just come home from Long and McQuade. Cab ride there and back. That's what happens when you don't have a car, because you're a tree hugger. The bass seemed buzz free when I checked it out in the store. Just played it acoustically, not through an amp, but I noticed that the action is a lot higher than I have ever had it. And I'm going to guess that it's even higher than Hofner's factory specs. It's going to be really hard to get in here. Okay, so there's the three, and I'm lining it up with the 12th fret. And are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 3.5? Yeah. 12th fret action on the bass side is 3.5. Wow. Okay. And let's see if I can get the, that's 2 millimeters for the treble side. And maybe I can get in under here. Let's set 2 1/4 on the 12th fret. It's 2 1/4 on the 12th fret. Let's see if that wants to focus. And shits and giggles. Let's try. Well, it focus in there. Well, so my action is 3.5 on the bass side and 2.5 on the treble side. So I can tell you one thing. So I put this down and wish I had a third hand. That I'm not too happy about. So that is going to be me adjusting the action, putting it back to where it's supposed to be. In fact, I actually keep it a little under factory spec. But, well, let's adjust the action and see where that puts us. Okay, so as we just saw, I pick up my Hofner from Long and McQuade's Repair Tech here in London. Action is super high. 3.5 on the bass side, 2.5 on the treble side. And that is after twice communicating with this tech. A, Hofner's factory specs. B, my own personal setup preference. See, when all this started back in April, we were under a lockdown at the time, and everything was curbside drop off and pick up due to the pandemic. So I couldn't go in and talk to the guy. I couldn't pull out the bass and say, hey, this is the problem, da da da. So I sent a quick email saying, got some buzzing on the G string up around the 12th fret. I think 1 or 2 of the frets might be raised. I'll bring it in a couple days. So when I drop it off, because I could only deal with the kid working the door, I left a note in the case saying, this is the problem. I think this is the cause. Oh, and factory specs are 3 millimeters, 2 millimeters, my personal preference, 2.75 and 2. Now, I don't expect this guy to remember a note or an email from 8 months ago. So when I dropped it off last week so we could have a second crack at it, I repeated that. Factory specs this, my personal preference this. I don't know what Long and McQuade's policy is. Maybe their attitude is, who cares what the customer says? Don't listen to the customer's instructions, requests, preferences. You just do whatever you want. Maybe this guy just likes super high action. I don't know. I can tell you, I'm not impressed with getting dinged for another $75 setup fee when I have to come home and do my own setup. Will I communicate that to the manager? On principle, yeah, I should. Whether or not I do, I honestly haven't decided yet. But I've got the action down to factory specs for now, 3 millimeters and 2 millimeters. And I can honestly tell you, as I was lowering the action, I was a little concerned that it was jacked up so high because it was hiding something and it was compensating for something. And I'm lowering the action and I'm expecting to encounter buzzing all over the place and expecting myself to become very, less than pleased. So I was pleasantly surprised, relieved actually, that so far every note on this neck appears to be buzz-free. If you recall last week's video, the D string was a mess from 5th fret up to about the 16th. It's plugged in, it's not turned up. Sound quality, of course, not the best. I'm just shooting this on a cell phone with an external Rode video mic, but no buzz. I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. Not happy I had to do my own setup, but moving on. Let's talk about the work that was actually done. Turns out it's a little more involved than just a couple raised frets. Turns out the neck on this bass had actually developed a bit of a twist. Now this happens. Guitars and basses are made of wood. Sometimes a twist is an absolute disaster, and the best you can do is use the now former instrument for kindling or a doorstopper, your preference. Fortunately, this was only a slight twist, so he was able to compensate for that. What he did was adjust the truss rod, get the neck straight as he could. It's a little wonky on the treble side, so he did a full fret dress all along the neck, compensating for that twist. I'm actually impressed with the work. I'm pleased. I'm satisfied. No buzzes anywhere, and that's fantastic. But it seems with Long and McQuade there is always a but. But why didn't he catch this the first time back in April? And I asked him that. I didn't, I didn't phrase it rudely. I tried to, do it politely, diplomatically. I think my exact wording was, it's a shame none of us caught this. You know what his response to that was? Oh, well, you just said it was a raised fret, so I didn't check anything else. Excuse me? If you are a guitar tech and you deserve your paycheck, you do your due diligence. Somebody brings an instrument into you with the problem, you don't just check their suspicion, you check everything. You look this way, that way, you measure everything, you check top to bottom. That answer did not instill me with a lot of confidence or faith in this guy. He did great work when he got around to it, but this should have been caught 8 months ago. And the guys in Music City, Canada that I took it to after he didn't sort it the first time, my God, they were, they were even worse. Their answer to everything was, oh, it's just all these sets of labella strings you get are all defective, yeah, we fixed it, it's perfect, you just had a bunch of bad strings. Yeah, because that happens. Every set of strings, that are bought and made years apart, yeah, I don't think so. Oh, on the subject of strings. Yep. Gone through another set. I have now gone through 5 sets. This is the 5th set on here. 50 to 60 bucks a pop, plus taxes, plus shipping for the couple that I've had to have, a couple sets I've had to have sent up from the US because nobody in Canada has any in stock. It's over $300 worth of strings on a bass that I haven't been able to use or play since April. So, yeah, not especially happy about that. Let's recap that. When I took this in initially to Long and McQuade back in April, also in the note that was tucked into the case, stated, I use flats. I've had this bass for almost 6 years. 1 set of flats. They're broken in. The tone is to die for. I love them. Hey, Motown, James Jamerson, apparently the man, only used 1 set of strings in his entire career. So all those brilliant hit records coming out of Motown, 1 set of strings. So, yes, there is a spare set in the case the note went on. Please only use it if absolutely necessary. And as you recall from last week's video, when I picked the bass up from the first time back in April, the kid hands me the bass, and in his other hand he's like, here's your old strings. We put the new ones on, but you can reuse these. Well, you can't. Once the string is cut, it is next to useless. The only thing it is good for, other than garroting somebody, is... okay. The only thing it is good for is, in a pinch, you bust a string in the studio or a gig, maybe you can throw an old cut string on there temporarily. whatever. So those were the first two sets gone. And then, as you recall from last week's video, the setup I was billed for back in April was so horrible. Again, I had to do it myself. And the strings, the ball ends weren't seated properly in the tailpiece. So when I was slacking off the E string to reseat the ball end and then tuning back up to pitch, snapped right at the post. So that was the second set gone, and the third set put on. And then when I took it to these clowns at Music City, Canada, yeah, the response was, oh, all these strings are defective. So the third set off, and they had it in their shop for over a month because I'm waiting for strings to get shipped up from the US. And so that was the fourth set of strings that was on there when I took this into Long and McQuade last week. And again, I always keep a spare set in the case. So when I picked it up this time, and they're like, yeah, we put the new strings on, but here are your old ones. You can reuse them. Wasn't too happy about that at all. The mitigating factor there is you're doing a full fret dress, you kind of have to take the strings off. So am I happy about going, through 5 sets of strings, over $300 for a bass that I haven't been able to play or use for 8 months? No, I'm not. Am I happy that issues finally appear to be resolved? Yes, I am. The work that was done so far, barring any weird things that crop up in the next few days or weeks, it's a good job. It's possibly even a great job. But it shouldn't have taken 8 months to get to this point. It should have been caught by this guy back in April. It should have been caught by the guys at Music City that I took it to in May and June. It shouldn't have got to the point that it did. So I reiterate the point that I made in the first video. London, Ontario has a distinct lack of good guitar techs. Kind of have to, stand over their shoulder and point by point go through, check this, do this, do this. And then it's, 50-50 whether they're even going to listen to you, because, again, 3.5, 2.5, whatever. Now, the funny thing is, when I took my Hofner in back in April, I was all set to start recording music, release my first song in years. I needed all my gear tip-top shape because I had another guitar that needed some work. This baby. Limited edition Gretsch Penguin. One of only 100 of this particular model ever made. It was released in April 2020. Mine arrived at the store in May. And pretty much since day one, there's been a wee bit of a buzz or a rattle. Now, with Gretsch, as any Gretsch player will tell you, just the construction, the design, sympathetic resonance can be really hard to find, and sometimes it's a buzz, sometimes it's a rattle, sometimes it's the fretwork, sometimes it's there's a screw loose somewhere. Now on this, basically sometimes 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th frets on the E string. 5th fret particularly, bit of a buzz. I've checked every screw on here. You slack off the strings, you check everything in the tuning pegs, you check, every single screw that goes on the body of that guitar. You give it a check. Now, here's the thing. Back in April, right? I take the Hofner into Long and McQuade. I didn't have anyone else to go to because our resident wizard, Reiner, had semi-retired and moved back east to the Maritimes. So I'm thinking, well, who do I trust? A couple other techs I've tried over the years have been an absolute nightmare. So who's going to fix my Hofner? And who do I trust to work on a Gretsch? I mean, seriously, I'm not going to let some hack work on a limited edition Gretsch. It just, you don't do that. But remembering that Reiner had told me, well, when Long and McQuade's tech worked on your other guitar, yeah, he buggered the bridge up, but he did a perfect job on the nut. He couldn't have done any better. So the funny thing was, the Hofner was almost a test. It's like, okay, there's nobody else to turn to. A guy I did trust said, it was 50-50. He did this perfect. He did this not perfect at all. In fact, he shouldn't have even touched that, but whatever. So the Hofner back in April was kind of a test. And, because the guitar was still under warranty, the original 1-year warranty. Gretsch has a limited lifetime warranty, of course. And it was like that since day one, Buzzy on that string, those frets. But the Hofner was just, let's see how he does with this. And if I can trust this particular guy to work on my Penguin. My Penguin, if you look at it the wrong way, I will have words with you. If anybody ever hurt that guitar, yeah. I'm not a violent person though. And I actually took the Penguin in yesterday when I picked up my bass. And this is yesterday now because I didn't have time to film this last night. It was dinner time and all that by the time I got home. And then, watching Dad's Army, great show, love it. The series, not the movie. And I took the Penguin in with me just to see what his opinion was. And I swear this guy's stock answer. And he looked at it, like, oh yeah, it just needs a setup. Excuse me? Again, don't insult my intelligence. I've been doing my own setups almost as long as I've been playing. And if it was just a setup, a question of action, intonation, or relief, and he's like, oh, we'll just raise the action. So would I trust this guy to work on the Penguin? No, I honestly don't think I would. Unless I was standing over his shoulder the whole time. So I'm still going to have to find somebody to work on my baby. But the Hofner at least seems good to go. Now, I've pulled this out. I've sat here with it. I've played it unplugged. I have a Hofner. The company that wouldn't exist without Paul McCartney. The Beatles, fun thing. Paul McCartney is my least favorite Beatle. But I got to give the guy props for some of the great bass lines he did. So I may as well turn this up. And let's see. The D string was the problem last time. I got a Hofner. Let's see what Beatles tunes are almost entirely on the D string. The intro to Help. And since I don't want to risk any copyright infringements or copyright strikes, it's all I'm going to play. What else did Paul do on the D string? Dear Prudence. Again, as much as I'm going to play because of that whole copyright thing. But I'm happy that after all the trials and tribulations, things seem to be good. Would I recommend Long and McQuade if there's nothing else available? And like I said, credit where it's due, criticism when it's valid. That's an expression of mine. If you use it, I want royalties, or at least a coffee. You can tell I've gone through a lot in 8 months just to get this sorted. So I can't say that I'd recommend them unless there's really no other choice. This guy, when he finally did the work, did a great job. But it shouldn't have taken everything it did to get to the point where it was finally resolved. Like I've said, do your own research. You Google it. Long and McQuade guitar repairs, Long and McQuade guitar techs. The majority of what you find on different musicians' forums and social media are cautionary tales at best, outright horror stories at worst. Forewarned is forearmed, as they say. But yeah, I've got this, YouTube videos, to grow your channel and increase your subscriber count. There's supposed to be a call to action and all that happy stuff. So, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned because we got more awesome content coming. Yeah. And I guess it's time to say goodbye. Hey Jack, what's happening? Dead Milkman, Bitchin' Camaro. Great song, love it. And again, don't want to risk a copyright strike, so that's all you get. Peace.